Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at Disney Lorcana and the state of the game and how it has been going. We're going to take a look at some of these meta lists that have been topping tournaments. We're going to be taking a look at some of the singles prices, both enchanted and not enchanted cards. And then finally, we're going to take a look at pricing for the upcoming Into the Inkland set and kind of want to keep you away from falling into some of the traps that some of these sellers might have set for you.
It's a trap!
So let's dive right into these decks first and talk about them. All right, so we're not going to go super in-depth with these lists, but let's go ahead first and take a look at Amber Steel Song. Now, still very popular playing the Sleepy's Flute. This list is very strong. It has changed quite a bit, though, since the deck started getting popular. It is playing more Tiana now. It wasn't playing Tiana originally. It's playing Gaston. It is also playing more of the Emo Beast. And Tinkerbell as well, you didn't see at the beginning. So the list has kind of evolved, adding Surfer Stitch as well. And then World's Greatest Criminal Mind has been in here because one of the biggest problems for this deck is dealing with bigger creatures like Cinderella or even Maleficent late game in certain games can be kind of an annoyance if you can't deal with it too early. But I like the way the deck list has evolved a little bit. Still running Ariel, A Whole New World, and Grab Your Swords to be able to sing those big, powerful songs, but still a very fun deck to play. It is very, very unforgiving, though, if you ink a lot of cards that you shouldn't be inking early in the game. So I do believe this is one of the skill ceiling decks that it's a little bit higher than most of the skill ceilings, because if you ink wrong too early with a lot of cards in here, it's going to punish you way worse than some of the other decks. Next up, we have the Ketchup and Mustard list, the Mufasa deck list. When Mufasa gets banished, you look at the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, you get to put it into play for free. So being able to Mufasa into Lady Tremaine or Maleficent or even Maui just feels extremely, extremely good. And then obviously like the worst one is probably Rapunzel if you have no characters with any damage on them, but still being able to go back and get Mufasa with Hades and replay him, and then just being able to hit stuff again with Lady Tremaine and Maleficent. This deck is so much fun. If you hit a Stitch off the top and you have two other characters in play, man, this deck is just a lot of fun. I do think that Minnie Mouse is very undervalued as well. Very good 3-drop threat. They can really finish up a lot of games, more so than people think. And it's got a 3 toughness body, which gets away with dealing with like Fire the Cannons and Grab Your Swords, and also the incidental overage damage from Tinkerbell. So keep that in mind as well. Love this list. Is probably my favorite list that we're going to be looking at today. Next up, we have the Steel Emerald discard list. This one actually top 4'd a 1K event recently. So congrats to Shane for his top 4 on this. Running Prince John, finally a top 4 list that is playing the discard mechanic. I love to see it. This one utilizing Bucky with all the Floodborn characters, being able to draw an extra card with Donald Duck. You make your opponent draw an extra card, but it doesn't matter if you're playing Floodborn and making them discard with Bucky, or playing another card like Hypnotize or Sudden Chill to make them discard that card. Now, I don't know how this deck plays against the Whole New World decks. I haven't seen a whole lot of matchups with it, so I'd be curious to see how it interacts with that, being able to draw a fresh new hand and things like that. But I love the overall concept of this deck, and I hope that it sticks around in the top 8 lists. Next up, it's no surprise, we've got Ruby Amethyst, still a very, very solid list. Now, this one, the top 8'd recently, is not running any copies of Arthur, so this is more of a control list, being able to bounce stuff like Ursula and Lady Tremaine mid to late game, and then obviously you have Teeth and Ambitions and stuff like that for control early on, and then you're just going to bounce your way with Merlin or Sorcerer's Spellbook to that point of 20, and then you have late game threats like Maleficent. They can definitely turn the game around. And then Merlin the Crab is actually pretty strong too, because being able to sacrifice one of your Minnie Mouse or your Olaf or something like that into a bigger character without having to get rid of one of your Mims or Goats or Maleficent, you can drop Merlin, pump them up, and then attack for the kill, so to speak. And not have to waste any of your big characters. Next up, a list that definitely has dropped in popularity is the Amber Amethyst Hyper Aggro list. Now, this one is completely different than some of the other lists that you have seen. It is running some bodyguards, and it is running this 1/9 Eudora. Now, I've been waiting for somebody to run this card. I definitely think that this is a very solid card. Only way to deal with it is Be Prepared or Hard Removal. And a lot of people are not playing Sapphire right now, so you're not seeing a whole lot of Let It Go. You're not seeing a ton of Hades. So those cards aren't going to hit this. So really Be Prepared, maybe Dragonfire, Maleficent, and Lady Tremaine are really the only ways that people can deal with this, because with that 9 toughness, it's extremely hard to deal with. I love the addition of Just in Time to be able to drop out one of these very big bodies early game, especially the bodyguards to protect your little creatures. But I still think that this deck is a little weak to the steel lists that are playing like Amber Steel Song, that they could sing super, super early and wipe out your high lore threats early on. But it did top 8 a 2K So that is something to say about the resilience of this deck. And last, the deck I want to talk about is a deck that included Weight Set. I was so happy to see Weight Set included in a list. Super, super cool. Weight Set says whenever you cast a character that has 4 power, you get to pay 1 and draw a card, and there are a ton of 4F characters in here. You have the 4/3 green Arthur, you have John Silver, Tinkerbell, you have Arena, you have Cerebus, obviously you have Beast back here behind my head that you can't see, and there's just a lot of way to cause damage to untap Beast to be able to lower for up to 10 a turn. Like, I've gone off for as much as 10 in a turn with Beast. I'm sure you can probably do more, especially against decks that use Whole New World. So if you have a Beast in play, they can't kill it, and they have to Whole New World to refresh their hand, you're basically going to get a handful of damage spells and characters that can damage theirs. So you could possibly go nuts with Beast and really turn a game around. So I love this list. I love playing Weight Set too. It's been a lot of fun to see this list in action. The last list I want to talk about is the Steel Amethyst list that I've seen floating around. Now, this one did win a tournament not too long ago. This is an older list here. It did win first place, but this was back at the beginning of December. It went kind of under the radar for a little while, but I will say this about this particular deck. I do think that this one has the highest skill ceiling out of all the other decks, meaning you're going to need probably a decent amount of reps to understand how the deck works, how it fares in certain matchups, what to ink, what not to ink, and I definitely think that this particular one will punish you more so than any of the other deck lists we took a look at if you don't have a ton of reps with it. So keep that in mind if you want to build this, but I do still believe it is a strong deck to play. All right, so after looking at some meta deck lists, it is definitely safe to say that the health of the game is in a really good spot. When you see 4, 5, 6 different deck lists top 8ing at different tournaments, and most of these tournaments are also, speaking of numbers, they're going up in numbers. Locally, we were seeing most of the bigger 1Ks and stuff in 20 numbers. Now they're in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So the health of the game is definitely there. And I love to see the popularity pick up, more people playing the game since more cards are accessible. We'll talk about prices here in a second. But seeing the meta this spread out is definitely a good sign for the health of the game. All right, so let's go take a look at singles now. Sealed first. So the booster boxes themselves that were selling for $400. For those of you that were wasting your money spending $400 for these boxes. And also, quick side note, first print run and second print run and third print run don't matter. So anybody that's telling you otherwise is falsifying information, or they're trying to hype up information of inventory they may have. So yes, that is the price of the current boxes right now. They went all the way from 400 down. They're finally at MSRP. Guys and girls, you can get these from your local game stores at MSRP. Not very many of them are selling for above that. So if you see prices up in the 200s, do not buy Chapter 1 at that price. For that matter, even Chapter 2 right now, guys and girls, you can get for, look at this, $124 a box below MSRP. Look at the drop from the release all the way down to here. Now, the pre-orders that people were pre-ordering and spending $400 for, again, a lot of these people are uneducated because they're newer to TCGs and they just FOMO in. They don't want to miss out. They feel like because it was so hard to get hold of Chapter 1 at the beginning, we're going to have the same problem going forward. And that's not going to be the case, guys and girls. Disney has figured out that issue. They've worked it out. Please do not fall for these traps. Do not overpay for product. Do a little bit of research, get a little bit of knowledge on it, and really look into what you're getting. And also, always buy from a reliable source. So the first single we're going to take a look at here is the Elsa Enchanted. Now, Elsa was over $800. And then, again, the reason for the biggest price point on this was FOMO, and because a handful of people purchased it at that price early on, it kind of set a precedent for that, and there was a shortage of product, so there wasn't a way to really race it to the bottom. But then as we got the reprint, take a look at this. It went as low as $345, so even more than 50% less than where it was. Now, the good sign is that it has started to tick back up, meaning people are buying this card at this price and finally saying, okay, cool, there might be value in this now. Even though it's really not seeing play in decks, people are finally starting to buy these to hit their master collections and things like that, because at this price point, at that $800, that is just too crazy for a single, for a game that we just don't know how much of it's going to get printed. And there was no limitation to this card. It wasn't like, ooh, there's only 500 of this card printed. No, there's an unlimited number of these printed depending on how much product they print. So this price could even go lower than that. But I think that the $345 price point was a very solid price to get in on this if you're trying to fill out master sets and things of that nature. But let's take a look at a couple more enchanteds. The next one we're going to talk about is Maui, and Maui is one that is seeing a ton of play. So Maui right now is under $100. Maui's only $95. It wasn't that high to begin with. It was about $180, just under $200. But every red deck runs for Maui. So if you're one of those people that wants to max rarity your deck, this is a great time to pick up this card. I think that if he stays probably one of the best red cards in the game, most consistent red cards in the game, you might see this price start to tick back up as people finally get into the game that are willing to max rarity their colors and their decks, because you need 4 of this. You're not just going to buy 1 of this. Yeah, if you want a master set, you're going to buy 1, but majority of people that are going to buy this going forward are probably people that are playing the game to max rarity decks. And I think that a 95 price point is pretty solid for this card, especially since it's been holding that price with all of the new product that has been pumped into the TCG lately. Now, if you look at the set as a whole, look at the prices of all the enchanteds. None of them are over $200. They're all below $200. Only one of them is actually at $200. The rest are all right at that $100 price point, which is pretty big because Chapter 1, we had a lot of enchanteds that were over that $200 mark until recently, like Belle, Surfer Stitch, Elsa. There was just so many that were over 200, and Cinderella is probably the most played rare in the second set. And her being at that $185 price point, if people are max raritying their deck and she is still holding at this price point, the price drop hasn't been too significant though. It went from close to $300 down to this, so not a 50% drop off like what we saw in set number 1 with a lot of those cards. But the reason for that is because more people, when the set came out for Rise of the Floodborn, a lot of people just opened product and put it straight on the TCG player. You had a lot of local stores not selling as much sealed product, busting the product open and just surging trading card game marketplace and TCG player marketplace, and also locals, like players that got a hand of product that they wanted. They put their stuff on there instantly, trying to just get rid of it and get their value back. So that was the reason why we saw a bigger race and faster race to the bottom with Rise of the Floodborn than we did for Chapter 1. All right, so now we're going to look at a couple of regular singles. So Maleficent Monstrous Dragon is obviously the most powerful red legendary, and honestly, the power level of the legendaries in Chapter 1 were definitely better or more powerful than the legendaries in Chapter 2. Chapter 2 had more powerful uncommons and regular rares, I do believe, than the first chapter did. But if you take a look at Maleficent, it dropped all the way down as low as, where was it, $21? Yes, $21.89 you were able to get this card. But since then, with the reprint waves and with all the reprints that are coming, look at this. It has since gone from $21.89 back up to $35.34. So going up $14, which is more than a 50% price jump from its low at $21.89. That says a lot about the card and the card game itself. That shows that a lot of people are picking up, you know, the 4s and the 3s and the 4s that they need for their meta decks. And the fact that a card like Maleficent can go up in price like this and trend back upwards after being beaten down with all these reprints is showing that the health of the game is in a very good place. There's still people willing to pay to put their decks together, and there's so many more people playing the game now since we have access to it. So we've drawn even more people in that were already in the game, and you've seen that with tournament numbers. Tournament numbers are going up, so you're starting to see a lot of different deck lists. And still, with the wide meta and also with the inclusion of all the different cards hitting TCG Marketplace, cards going up like this says a lot about the health of the card game. And the latest single we're going to take a look at is Tinkerbell. Now, when Tinkerbell came out, she was extremely powerful, but when Set 2 got released, a lot of people that were thinking the resist mechanic was really going to be a big thing started playing less of Giant Fairy, and she's starting to see a resurgence now because resist really isn't a great mechanic. The only thing that is being seen with resist that's seeing a bunch of play is the Cinderella, the big one from Rise of the Floodborn, and that card's just hard to deal with in general. But that's really the only resist character seeing play. So if you look, look at the price drop. Look. She went from $22. She's just a super rare. She went from over $25, almost $30. She went as low as $5. Guys, you're able to pick these up locally for under $5 recently. And since then, she has gone back up to $8.89. Again, that's a $3 price jump. So from 5 to 8, $3, that's more than 50% of where it was. So that is a big jump, going back up 50% after it was beaten down. And all these reprints really took hold and the meta shift took hold, but it is still able to go back up. That means enough people are buying copies of these cards to make the values kind of slowly climb back up. So it is a very good sign that the popular meta cards and the strong cards are ticking back up from these lows that we had, 2 and 3 weeks ago, because that means so many people are in the game that they all need copies of these cards. Even though there's a ton of product on the shelves, when singles are still going up in an overflooded market like that, it's a good sign for the health of the game. And I do believe the meta where it is also great because we have more than just 2 decks that you can play to win a tournament. 2 or 3 decks, actually. You can play up to like 5 or 6 right now and win any of these top 8 tournaments, or top 8 or win any of these tournaments. So I love to see that. But lastly, let's talk about a trap not to fall into. Do not fall into the trap that is the Into the Inklands pre-orders. Guys and girls, $217.80 market price, $208 pre-order price, $146, it's above my head here, $146 market price for Troves. Freaking $80 for Into the Inklands gift sets that only come with 4 booster packs and they come with some promos that are included in the set. This isn't the only way to get these. It's not like the D100s where the cards didn't come in the set. These are cards that are in the set, included in the set, and you're just getting 4 packs. You're paying $80, guys, for 4 packs. Come on. Don't be that stupid. Please don't be that stupid. I know I'm making this to educate you, so I'm not trying to talk down to anybody, but if you were one of the people that is pre-ordering these boxes at $250 to $200, you're part of the uneducated people that are causing this problem and allowing these people to take advantage of you and take advantage of other people. Like, oh, the market's this, so I could charge whatever I want. Yeah, you can charge whatever you want, but at this point, it's definitely taking advantage of your customers or taking advantage of people that are uneducated. And it's kind of scummy to me. You were going to be able to get these at your local game store for MSRP of that $145 price point. You're not going to have to pay $200 a box. You're not going to have to go sit out in front of a store for 3 or 4 hours before they open. You can pre-order these with a lot of stores right now. A bunch of our local stores have pre-orders up and they're letting people unorder or order almost an unlimited amount of them up to what their allocation numbers are. Do not let these people take advantage of you. I love you all. I love this game. And seeing the health of the game itself expand, so many more people are playing the game now because they have access to cards. Singles are more affordable. There is a healthy price trend with cards that are meta or not meta and things of that nature. And I do think that Disney is going to have plenty of Into the Inklands product available. Of course, the Tros and the gift sets are probably be a little bit more limited than the booster boxes, but you don't need to pay an exorbitant big price for them. You can go to Barnes & Noble, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Target. You're going to be able to get those for MSRP, guys and girls. Just be diligent and do your research. Pre-order from places that aren't trying to rip you off and that are charging MSRP, because even at MSRP, the stores are still making plenty of money off the product. A box from resale or a box from like the wholesalers is coming in at that close to $90, between $90 and $95. Some people are probably getting them cheap if they're buying by the pallet, I'm sure. But for the average Joes, the smaller stores, they're paying between $90 and $95 a box. So if they're paying between $90 and $95 a box, even if they sell at retail, they're making $50 a box. Minus their fees and taxes, of course, but still, even then, if you're making $30 per booster box, that is okay. That is perfectly fine. You shouldn't be trying to make double and triple your money on these boxes. That's not what it's all about. You're basically taking advantage of your player base and the people that support your store if you're selling them for that price. And I know some people do pay a little bit better attention to their local player base. They probably sell cheaper to their local players and people that play at their store. But still, at the price point where we're at, and the sheer amount of stuff that has been sitting on shelves for the new sets, and if Rise of the Floodborn prices at $130 a box isn't a telltale indicator, I do think that this is obviously shill pricing that people are purchasing from each other. So like any sale data on this, if people go in here and you see data listings and it's like, oh, one sold today for $212 and one sold yesterday for $212 and $212 and $217, I do think these are pre-orders that people are buying from other people. In other words, people they know. And they're probably going to cancel those orders, or they're just there for pricing data to give them an excuse to overcharge for this product. So hopefully this video gave you guys a little bit of an eye-opener when it comes to some of the products, a little bit of the meta, how wide it is. I believe the game is in a very healthy spot. I do believe that Lorcana is a fun game to play. It's a blast to play, actually. I do think that is going to continue to grow in popularity. I can't wait to see what Disney gives us in their roadmap for competitive play whenever they decide to give that to us later this year. So super excited about that. I'm sure I'll run into some of you at tournaments and regionals and things like that whenever they decide to announce them. That's going to be a lot of fun. But again, thank you all so much for listening to me ramble. Hopefully this video gave you a good foothold on what to expect with the meta going forward, that it's healthy, also with some of these prices, and hopefully me talking about this price trap not to fall into, you don't fall into yourself, or if you have time to correct that if you don't want to pay or overpay for a product. So I do know that that is different from area to area, so I apologize if you have trouble getting products. It's out there at retail price, guys and girls. You don't need to overpay. Have a good day, everybody. I will see you on the next video or the next live. I love you all, and have a fantastic rest of your day.